podcasts. My name is Peter Greenlaw. I'm a nutritional researcher for over 21 years, and today we're going to show you exactly why diets are absolutely not working. No matter what you might think, diets absolutely are not working, and the reason is pretty obvious. The whole concept of dieting, I wrote this book called Why Diets Are Failing Us. Hi, L. Joan S.W. What if I told you that every diet out there that's been studied that you lose weight on is the most unhealthy thing you could ever do by lowering calories? The medical proof is pretty clear that when you go on a diet, you lose weight. It doesn't matter what the name of the diet is, but you're losing primarily your lean muscle mass. When you lose lean muscle mass, it slows your metabolism down. That's why you gain back all the weight you've ever lost on any diet. Look at these new studies. There are now 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies, 10, where men and women weren't even allowed to exercise, and they lost as much weight in a week as in 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in a month as it took a year on any diet, lost no water. Instead of losing lean muscle mass and slowing their metabolism down, they actually gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And also, the weight loss was so dramatic that women lost a whole dress size in just the first 7 days with no exercise. No one was allowed to exercise. See, we're being fed this really false information by all these people on social media. What they're telling you is 100% wrong, and it's also none of it's backed up by medical science. If you're really concerned about medical science, for example, I've got 3 studies on this time-restricted eating where people didn't eat for 16 hours and they ate for 8. And again, over and over and over again, the information is overwhelming. Let me start with a study that was done in the Journal of the American Medical Association. This is a 3-month study, and they said, by doing time-restricted eating, overweight adults were assigned to routinely fast 16 hours daily, eating all their meals between noon and 8 p.m. In 90 days, they gained almost no benefit from it, and over the course of 3 months, they lost an average of 2 to 3.5 pounds, and most of the weight they shed was not body fat, but lean muscle mass, okay? That's number 1. Now let's go to another one, Annals of Internal Medicine. This was a 3-month study. And what did they find in this study? At 12 weeks, the weight by doing time-restricted eating was 4.6 pounds in 12 weeks. So this one over here, they lost 3.5 pounds. They lost a little bit more on this one in 12 weeks. But again, as the Journal of the American Medical Association pointed out, that up to 40% of what they lost was lean muscle mass. What the influencers are telling you, the only thing you're losing on this is fat. Completely wrong, bogus. And the studies that have actually been done on time-restricted eating, except the ones prior to this were done on mice and rats. These were done on human beings, and you tell me if the results after basically 3 months of dieting, you lose between 3 and 4.5 pounds, and up to 40% of what you're losing is your lean muscle mass. Let's go to a longer study now. Let's look at a 12-month study done in the New England Journal of Medicine. This time they had 2 groups of people. First group just lowered calories. The second group did this time-restricted eating where you don't eat for 16 hours, you eat for 8. In the group who lowered calories in a year, they lost in a year 16 pounds. And the people that did time-restricted eating only lost 12.6 pounds in a year. And both those lowering calories and those doing time-restricted eating lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. But that's only one of many diets. We could do low carb. I mean, it doesn't matter what the diet is. And now let's look at what the medical experts are finally coming around to saying about the whole thing about counting calories. Okay, here's the first one. I'm going to read to you an article from Harvard Medical School. Stop counting calories. Listen to this. Most people have been taught that losing weight is a matter of simple math. Cut calories, specifically 3,500, and you lose a pound. But as it turns out, experts are learning that this decades-old strategy is actually totally misguided. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong, says Fatima Stanford, obesity specialist, Harvard Medical School. This is Harvard Medical School. This is not my opinion, okay? They said, drop the calories notion. It's time to take a different approach by concentrating on what's in the food, not how much food we're consuming, okay? We have another one here. And this one is titled, the title of this article, Don't Bother Counting Calories, It's Complete Nonsense. They said, inevitably, notice the word they use, inevitably. Inevitably, more than 95% of people will go back to their baseline, and many will go above it if they do any form of calorie-restricted, calorie-counting diets, okay? There's another one here on calorie counting. Why losing weight isn't about cutting calories, okay? Amid all fad diets, calorie restriction continues to be a popular approach to weight loss. It turns out that cutting calories for weight loss is a misguided strategy that often leads to the more unintended weight gain over time. Okay? Now, another big one, this one's even more damaging. Why you shouldn't count calories. Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. What's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict their calories gain back more weight than they lost. So what are the experts saying? If you go on a diet and you lower calories and you ignore what's in the calorie, you're going to weigh more than when you started. It's better. You'd be better off not going on any diet at all. I know you've all experienced the frustration of going on a diet, you lose the weight, you plateau, or you come off the diet, you gain everything back. I mean, how much more evidence do we need? We got study after study after study showing that until now. These researchers have cracked the code on obesity. As a matter of fact, if you go to our website, which I've posted for you there, the New Health Conversation, it's also right above my head in this podcast. That website has the medical proof. There's no hyperbole there. None of my books are there, nothing. It's just the medical proof. This protocol, which the researchers who did it are the top weight loss, nutrition, and physiologists in the world. They don't sell anything. They don't have a company. They're scientists, right? And they, for 38 years, they've done over 100 studies, thousands of people. And what they found was this: every person, every diet, every time lost weight. Well, you think, well, that's good. No, it wasn't good. Because when they measured it, every person, every time was losing up to 40% of the lean muscle, and every person gained back all the weight and more. So they thought, wait a minute, we're doing something wrong. So it was a theory. Could we, because all a diet is, I'll give you a new definition. It has nothing to do with counting calories. The human body doesn't even know what calorie is. Why you're counting calories, I have no idea. Because someone told you to. But the human body doesn't know what a calorie is. It's just a measurement. It's the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. That's it. What we need to be thinking about is the nutritional value of what we're putting in our body. You see, because the body has a minimum amount of nutrition that the brain, once it has enough nutrition, okay, it relaxes. It knows it has enough fuel for the brain, the kidney, the liver, the heart, the lungs, the spleen, etc. But when you go on a diet, I don't care what the name is, we could list them: paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time-restricted eating, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, Cornish diet, the Zone diet, lose weight for your blood type, all these nonsensical things. And they're all a form of lowering the amount of food you're consuming. That's it, at the end of the day. Even the shots, that's how they work. But what they don't ever tell you is when you're lowering the amount of food you're consuming, you're lowering nutrition, and that triggers a reaction in the brain. It freaks out. It's in starvation mode. It prevents you from burning fat and immediately turns to your muscles for fuel. That is one of the most unhealthy things you could ever do to yourself. Because the first thing that the brain has to do, because there's not enough fuel, it slows down your metabolism. There's not enough fuel to fuel all the systems in the body. But the other thing it does that's even worse, it also interferes with your own immune system by losing lean muscle. So your diet, it's not doing something for you, it's doing something to you. My God, we have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. Do any of you want to put in the chat? Can you please explain to me? Do you think diets are working? It's complete marketing nonsense. There's not one person I've seen on social media that shows you one shred of medical evidence. They give you opinions. They're drawing things on a chart, and they want to sell you, 1,000 recipes, and all this. They want to charge you. Yeah, you buy their program, then you get a coach. That's nonsense. We don't do that. We show you the only medical proof up front. This is backed. This, what we're talking about, we're going to be talking about, is backed by 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies. None of these other diets have peer-reviewed human trial studies that they initiated on their own. You can tell I get really animated about this because it's crazy what we're doing. I mean, it gets even worse. Study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. This is Johns Hopkins Medical School saying they estimate 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese in 5.5 years. What are we doing? I don't fault the influencers you probably are watching. I see them. Some of them have 1 million followers. Big deal. They're leading people in the wrong direction. If what they were talking about had any credibility, they'd have peer-reviewed human trial studies. I just read to you the peer-reviewed human trial studies on, this big rage intermittent fasting where, basically in 3 months, people lost between 3 and 4.5 pounds. And they said right in there, most of the weight they shed was not body fat, but lean muscle mass. These aren't opinions that we're making up here. This is fact. You can believe. Here's another one. They're saying, while it was once thought that the more fat you had, the less muscle you lost in a calorie deficit, this has been totally disproved, with both lean and obese people suffering significant rates of muscle loss while dieting by lowering calories. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to make you aware of this new revolutionary scientific breakthrough. I don't know how to describe it. Do you all understand that a peer-reviewed human trial study, there's nothing higher in medical research? You hear the term scientific study. It doesn't mean anything. Hear the term clinical trial. Because a lot of the clinical studies that are done on mice and rats. Don't care about that. No drug ever gets approved without a peer-reviewed human trial done on human beings. And if any of those diets on their own, do you think that the people who created intermittent fasting, where you don't eat for 16 hours, ate for 8, they initiated a peer-reviewed study that would show people that in 3 months they lost 3 to 4.5 pounds, and in a year, they lost 12.6 pounds in a year, and 40% of what they're losing is lean muscle? What are we doing? I don't know. But we provide you with free medical proof right there at the New Health Conversation. You can go there at any time. You can see the medical proof. There's no tricks, no games, no anything. The only thing there is the medical proof. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what else to do. Because all these medical studies are showing that diets are an abject failure in the long run. Yes, you'll lose weight initially. But you have to understand, the medical evidence proves. When we see study after study where they say, yes, you can lose weight on any diet, but it's the most unhealthy thing you could ever do by lowering calories and ignoring the nutrition in the calories. I mean, my God, Harvard Medical School came right out and said, right here, this big article, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong, says Fatima Stanford, obesity specialist at Harvard Medical School. She goes on to say, drop the calories notion, says Stanford. It's time to take a different approach by focusing on what's in the food, not how much food you're consuming. Have any of you gone on a diet and lost weight and gained it all back? How about all of you? How about, why you shouldn't count calories? Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. And what's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict their calories gain back more weight than they lost. What are we doing? You know what we're doing? We're defining the definition of insanity. Because I know what happens. People, because they tell me. They tell us. They come on and say, we've tried everything. Keto, paleo, stomach stapling, gastric bypass, whatever it is. They're all gaining all their weight back, or most of it back, or more weight than they actually lost in the beginning. Listen, the biggest loser, a lot of you probably saw that show about 7 or 8 years ago, where those people, they had them on like 600 calories a day. They worked them out 8 or 10 hours and they lost a lot of weight. Some of them 150 pounds. They did a follow-up study about 4 years ago and they proved those people had gained all their weight back and more, and they estimated they slowed down their metabolism by 25%. After all that, they ended up gaining more weight than they lost initially. It's the wrong approach. Counting calories, lowering calories, ignoring the fundamentals of the human body and metabolism. The body only runs on nutrition. So the researchers, this is 38 years, 100 studies, every diet you could possibly name, they always realized in the long run, none of them work. None of them work. So what they did, the theory was, could we lower the amount of food we were giving to the patients, but not lower the amount of nutrition, not through using supplements, by the way. So what they did, they created, this was a theory. By the way, let me repeat again. They don't sell anything. They don't have a store. They don't have a company. They're researchers, pure scientists, okay? But they had to give people food in the studies, right? So what they did, they limited people's food and they gave them a grocery list. 40% of the food people consumed came from their grocery store: fats, carbs, proteins, fruits, etc. Very specific list. A lot of choices, okay? But the second thing they did They found fulfillment or suppliers who for 25 years had gone around the world to find foods with massive amounts of nutrition that no longer exist. The nutrition density doesn't exist in the United States anymore. They went to Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, Tibet, and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand, and got 5 food groups that represented tremendous amounts of nutrition, not huge quantities. And they created what they consider to be the world's most perfect meal with these 5 foods that made up the world's most perfect meal. So 40% of the food came from your grocery store. The other 60% you buy directly from the suppliers, not from me, not from this. No, you're buying it directly from them. But listen to this. These people that supply you the foods to the studies, they give you 100% money back guarantee. If it doesn't work, you didn't like it, whatever, no questions asked. They'll even pay return shipping. Show me something else on social media where they're doing that. Oh, buy my 1,000 recipes and sign up for our monthly plan. Really? Wait a minute. How do we know it works? We're not going to take your word. Do you have any scientific proof it works? But people are lining up by the hundreds to do it. Just like lemmings right off the cliff. Oh, there's room now. Oh, now I'm off the cliff. This is complete insanity. What's going on? It's insanity. None of it's your fault. It's the wrong approach. It can't possibly work. It goes against human metabolism. You lower the amount of nutrition, your body's going into freak out. It's going into starvation mode, period. So the researchers, like I said, they had they were doing it a month at a time. 40% of the food people bought was from their grocery store, and the other 60% was from these 5 foods around the world. But they didn't end there. Those were the ingredients. That wasn't what they had the people do. They created a whole new way of consuming food, what was called protein pacing. What the heck is that? Protein pacing, 5 days a week, they had people eat the world's most perfect meal for breakfast, lunch from the grocery store, dinner from the grocery store, and then a 4th meal. 4 meals a day. And the last meal, of course, was from the world's most perfect food. 5 days a week, they did that. That's called protein pacing. 2 days a week, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting. Not fasting, not time-restricted eating, none of that nonsense. For 48 hours. So 5 days a week, they did protein pacing. 2 days a week, they did intermittent nutritional fasting until see, the program's called R2M, it stands for Race to Maintenance. And the whole idea is to get you to your goal, then you start maintenance, if that makes sense. Okay? Because on diets, it's always a destination. Oh, I want to lose 20 pounds for a wedding, or I'm going to a graduation, or winter's coming, or it's my New Year's resolution, or whatever the heck it is. But then what? What's the follow-on? I lost 40 pounds 21 years ago. I've kept it off for 21 years. That's what should excite you. That's what should interest you. Obesogen, yes. Yes, you're very right. No, it's not pre-recorded. I'm sorry. I am so impressed, Isaac the Lost, although it looks like that's... How do you know about obesogens? I was going to talk about that next. I'm so impressed. I discovered the medical syndrome called TDOS. It stands for toxicity, deficiency, overweight, and stress. All about obesogens. I wrote the book, and this is a registered trademark U.S. Patent Office. But, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Let me read about obesogens. You probably know, but the other people on this podcast don't. The Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones, and the clinical practice of endocrinology reports that the rise in the incidence of obesity matches the rise in the use and distribution of industrialized chemicals. These chemicals are called obesogens. Simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They enter our body from a variety of sources, from natural compounds in soy, hormones fed to animals, plastics in food packaging, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed in our produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking human hormones such as estrogen, blocking the action of other hormones such as testosterone, and essentially reprogram us to gain weight. You know about these. This is wonderful. Other people don't. Ladies and gentlemen, we're storing chemicals inside our body, more specifically inside our visceral fat. So you have the outer layer of fat that's called subcutaneous, subcutaneous or adipose. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. And the other kind of fat is the fat around the organs. That's where the body is storing, housing these chemicals. So think of the fat cell like a balloon. In comes the chemical, it expands. That's why so many people don't just complain about how much overweight they are, but the amount of fat. And your body's trying to protect you. We're evolving as a species to store these chemicals inside. This is why this is the main reason to do this, to combat the TDOS syndrome. Because in the studies, they did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis and proved that what was the body really doing it, but it upregulated the body's ability to remove what? Herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon and even plastics from the body. No diets ever touched this. Did any of you, other than this very observant person, ever hear of obesogens? No diet even touches it. It has no impact on that at all. This is one of the main reasons why we're so overweight, but more importantly, why we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker at younger and younger ages. Third of our youth are pre-diabetic? Are you kidding me? 74% of military-age men and women are rejected now from the military because of either weight, obesity, or their health. 74%, 92% of Americans are metabolic unhealthy, according to the CDC, Center for Disease Control. If you have 3 of these 5 factors, overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, in these medical studies that I have that you can see if you go to the website, all 5 came down dramatically just in 30 days. See, the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. The main reason to do this is to assist your own body in removing these chemicals from our bodies, which are storing. Whether you like it or not, or believe it, whether you're doing paleo or keto or they don't touch this. This is so significant. I'm so excited that somebody actually knows what obesogens are. That is just great. Maybe you read my book, I don't know. But anyway, Mitzi or Grist Isaac the Lost. That is just, it's wonderful. I'm just wondering how you found out about, and I write exactly about what you're talking about. Now, let me give you, Isaac the Lost, let me give you an update on amino acids, okay? And maybe you know this and maybe you don't, but for the rest of you. One of the biggest fallacies we're being told is that, for example, if you want to lose the most weight or be the most healthy, you ingest like 120 to 150 grams of protein daily. Nothing could be farther from reality and the truth. In Europe, they did a study. Oh, okay. Now I get it. All right, there you go. Fantastic. But for everybody else, let's talk about amino acids. So Isaac the Lost, I'm sure you heard probably this part before, but for everybody else, here's the big misconception around a protein. A protein is like the shell of a walnut. But inside, like inside the walnut, inside the protein are 20 amino acids. 9, you have to get them from your diet, 11 are non-essential. When you ingest protein, 120 grams, 150 grams, the body breaks open the protein and extracts the 20 amino acids. So you're celebrating, no, that doesn't mean anything. Through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, the researchers in Europe measured how much of the 20 amino acids, you were getting all 20, but what percentage, 0 to 100, were being absorbed in the body. It's called net nitrogen utilization. For lay people, just think about it, absorbing the amino acids. Well, plant-based protein, and this makes vegans mad, but I'm sorry, it's the truth. They found that the absorption was around 10% out of 100. All meat, steak, chicken, liver, fish, whatever, they found the absorption was 30%, 30. These researchers found a source of amino acids where the absorption was 91%. That's why the people with no exercise allowed gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Here's why. The thing that allows the body to make muscle is one of the essential amino acids called leucine. You have to have leucine in order to make muscle. So imagine these people were getting 91% of leucine. I mean, here would be a thing. So 1 serving of this protein, they use it in the studies, you'd have to eat 3 1-pound steaks. The thing I didn't tell you is, what about in the case of 90% that's not absorbed in a plant, or 70% not involved in meat? Where's the other 70% go? Aha, the kidneys have to get rid of the residue, which are toxins to the body. They're called nitrogen catabolites. Sorry to get so sciencey on you. I'm just giving you what the information is. Things like urea, creatine, ammonia, and glucose or sugar. So that's why, God forbid, if you had a friend on kidney dialysis, they don't want them to have any protein at all. So what we're being, and I don't fault I see the medical doctors and the chiropractors and the dietitians, the nutritionists, they don't know about this apparently. It was discovered about 8 or 9 years ago in Europe, and it's one of the biggest factors because, man, what were the researchers trying to do? Could they lower the amount of food you were consuming, but not lower the nutrition? Well, I just told you, one serving of this protein, you'd have to eat 3 one-pound steaks. So I'm sure you can appreciate that you probably, if you had, because they were giving people in the 5 perfect foods, they had a protein serving in the morning as part of it and a protein serving at night. So with 2 servings of this protein source, you'd have to eat, you ready for this, 6 one-pound steaks. Do you see the dilemma that we're all facing? That's why it's so important you understand about the D in deficiency. Because it's the deficiency of these massive amounts of nutrients that upregulate our own. See, our body has a built-in detox system. As long as, like last night when you went to sleep, as long as you didn't eat too late, your body automatically suspends digestion and turns on a machine that detoxes us. It's called autophagy. It's when the body gets rid of the dead cells. Well, these researchers, 2 days a week, when they did intermittent nutritional fasting, they created the same process. And then through the blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved that this was detoxing the body. How cool is that? Or not? You can see the medical proof if you go there. Yeah. You can see the medical proof if you go to the New Health Conversation. I'll put it up there right now for all of you. Control V. Send a comment. Sometimes it doesn't let me post the website. It doesn't like me, I guess. Here you go. And also above my head, you can see it there, the New Health Conversation. It's in both adaptations, whatever I want to say. So the researchers, the thing that was the most incredible to them was not the fact that people, men and women with no exercise, well, women lost a whole dress size in the first 7 days. Men lost up to 4 inches off their waist in 7 days. No one exercised. In a month, they lost as much weight as a year in any of these diets, lost no water weight, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. I mean, I know it sounds too hard to believe, but the medical proof, go and you can see the medical proof. It's right there. There's an interview with the #1 nutritional weight loss protocol physiologist, I couldn't think of the word, in the world. So understand, a nutritionist is one thing, but a physiologist studies the interaction of these nutrients on the organs inside the body. It's very rare that someone is a nutritionist and they're a physiologist. They're the ones that did they created this. And I want to say again, they don't sell anything, they don't have any products, they don't have a company, they're scientists. They figured this out, but it was a theory initially. They didn't know if it was going to work. And again, let's come back to reality. Diets, lowering calories is one of the most unhealthy things you could ever do to yourself. I read to you earlier, I was talking about, this big rage now. It's about don't eat for 16 hours, eat for 8, intermittent fasting. Really? Well, let's go to the Journal of the American Medical Association, a study they just published. The Journal of the American Medical Association, new research found that overweight adults who were assigned to routinely fast 16 hours daily, eating all their meals between noon and 8 p.m., gained almost no benefit from it. And over the course of 3 months, they lost between 2 and 3.5 pounds. And most of the weight they shed was not body fat, but lean muscle mass. But that's not what the influencers are telling you. They're telling you that most of what you lost was fat. No. And again, it just makes me angry when person after person after person and study after study is saying that all diets, they're basically doomed to failure. Let's see if, I think I have another one here. Yeah, okay, so here we go again. This is again on intermittent fasting. So new research shows that the diet craze of intermittent fasting is not very effective for losing weight. Researchers at UC San Francisco found that the wildly popular diet craze of time-restricted intermittent fasting is not effective for weight loss at all. Wow. And they're basically saying because up to 40% of what people lost on diets were was lean muscle mass. Wow, this is pretty amazing. Huh. So the problem is that all these researchers, I mean, these influences, they mean well, okay? And here's another study on intermittent fasting again. This time it's Annals of Internal Medicine, one of the biggest medical journals in the world, going to all the internists in North America. This was a 12-month study where time-restricted eating in 12 months, people lost 10 pounds. That sort of lines up with the study I'd read before, where the New England Journal of Medicine took people and put them on a diet by lowering calories and then did this time-restricted eating for 12 months. Those who lowered calories in a year lost on average about 16 pounds. The people doing time-restricted eating only lost 12.6 pounds, and up to 40% of what they lost by lowering calories and doing time-restricted eating was lean muscle mass. There's your Achilles heel to all this. And it does nothing. None of these do anything for the TDOS syndrome. Nothing. Zero. Unless you think it's a good idea to be storing the average adult, you have between 1,000 and 1,500 chemicals stored in your visceral, the fat around your organs. Now, obviously, you're not going to get them all out in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, but at least you can make a dent in it. And they have the medical proof proving this is assisting the body in removing chemicals. As a result, my God, women lost a whole dress size in 7 days. So the bloating that you experience and the extra fat and all that you're experiencing, it's because the body's storing these chemicals inside your visceral fat like a balloon. And when the chemicals come in, the balloon expands. That's why you end up with all the fat. I don't care how many sit-ups, crunches, sit in a sauna. You know they tested exercise? You could run 100 miles today. You won't lose 1 gram of a toxin, no matter what you think, in sweat. Doesn't happen. But we keep listening to the influencers. They keep telling you, only way to lose weight. It's a mathematical formula. We're going to show you how to cut 300 calories a day. Really? Well, what about nutrition? Why aren't you talking about that? We need a new conversation. That's why the new health conversation, not because I created it, it's a movement. We've done 22 years now. We've helped about 700,000 people. We calculate just roughly. It's probably more than this. Those people have lost about 14 million pounds. Did you hear me? 14 million. And a huge percentage, like myself, I lost 40 pounds 22 years ago. I've kept it off for 22 years. That's what should excite you. It's not a question, can we get the weight off you? That's the end of the beginning. Then we teach you how to maintain it. Otherwise, don't do this. It makes no sense. Don't waste your time, even though you're not buying anything from us. You're buying directly from the fulfillment companies. They'll give you 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. Don't let your skepticism maybe harm your potential, your quality of life potential for the rest of your life. Somebody asked me the other day that, is this a lifestyle? Yeah, I hope so. It's something. Now, do I still have pizza? Do I still drink beer? Do I still have of course. But way less than I used to, not because I'm on a diet. Look, in the studies, here's the thing, in 30 days, the patients who went through this, their hunger came down. You ready for this? 41% in 30 days. Show me any diet like that. What would it be? You've been on a diet for 30, at the end of 30 days, you're ready to eat your couch. You're crazy because you're depriving. The only thing the body cares about. It doesn't care about the quantity, it cares about the quality. And what are we doing? Okay, let's see. So, Mitzi or Barbie, do any of you have any questions for me? And the headline is real. Mitzi or Barbie, how excited would you be if you could lose a whole dress size in 7 days with no exercise? How excited would you be to lose as much weight in 7 days, assuming weight loss is what you want to do, as in 8 weeks of any diet? Lose as much weight in 30 days as a year in any diet. We have the medical proof. It's there. You can go and see it. But that's not the reason to do it. The weight loss is like, we almost laugh. Although people get crazy because they're in many cases, in the studies, they actually lost as much weight in 4 days as in 4 weeks of any diet. I know everybody's skeptical, but here's what makes us different. We're the only ones with the medical proof. Like when I read to you, here's another study in the Annals of Internal Medicine on, time-restricted eating. At 12 weeks, the people lost 4.6 pounds in 12 weeks. Does that excite you? and up to 40% of the majority of what they lost was not fat, but lean muscle mass. I mean, would you rather believe an influencer who's giving you an opinion, or would you? I don't want you to believe me. Let's be clear. I'm the researcher of the researchers. It's not my research. We're bringing it to you. That's what our website is all about, is to give you free access. And if you go to that website, we won't contact you. We won't call you. We won't text you. We won't email. We don't even know you went there. But if you go there and you like what you see, you can scroll down. It says schedule a free personal consultation with one of our coaches. It's completely free. And we're not holding, you've already seen all the medical proof. So it's not like you have to sign up and then it's a trick. Oh, we'll sign up with one of our coaches and then we'll tell you how it works. No, that's not true. We're totally upfront. We're totally transparent. I see these people want, sign up for our program and then you're going to get a coach. Wait a minute. Let me see. Where's your medical proof about what you're talking about? Our coaches, we have medical doctors, we have PAs, we have nurses, but everybody has done the protocol and been trained by us on how to do it, because 50% is what you're going to consume. The other 50% is this completely different way of consuming. Completely new. And these researchers, the top weight loss researchers in the world for 38 years, they're the ones that came up with this. They don't have a company. They don't sell you anything. They've spent 30, almost 40 years trying to find, could they crack the code for obesity, because it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. There's a big study here, just you think it's just not North America. This was done in the Lancet out of England, one of the biggest medical journals in the world. They now estimate 1 billion people out of 8 billion are clinically obese, not just overweight. And they said, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition in the world. What? Yeah. They went on to say people don't understand that being underweight or being obese are both forms of malnutrition, because people aren't getting the right amount of vitamins, minerals, nutrients necessary to maximize their quality of life. I know you're all going to get mad when I tell you this, but I do it with all due respect. You have no idea how bad you actually feel right now, because you have no clue how good you could feel. And I'm talking to people probably that are in shape, or you're athletes. Well, I go to the gym and I'm fit. No, you're not. No, that's nonsense. You're storing these chemicals inside your fat, even though it's not showing up on the outside. There's a new term called normal weight obesity, where they measure the amount of visceral fat in relationship to the muscle mass. And many, many people now have this. They used to call it skinny fat, but now they've updated it. Now they actually call it normal weight obesity. I know it sounds crazy, but my God, we have 50% of Americans pre-diabetic, 80% are overweight, 50% are obese. I always, when I do these, I always love people, put it in the comment. Tell me a diet you think works long-term, because the medical evidence is overwhelming that they don't. And when the comparisons were actually done in these 10 peer-reviewed studies, one of the big studies done in the Obesity Journal, recognized as one of the top, obviously, weight loss journals in the world, they compare the study that was published in Obesity Journal, took this R2M protocol that we're talking about right now and compared it to what? The Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet has been voted the #1 diet in the world for, I think it's 7 years in a row now by U.S. News and World Report. The people, it wasn't even, the people doing R2M compared to the Mediterranean diet had 3 or 4 times the result. It took people on the Mediterranean diet 8 months to lose 10.2 pounds. The people in this study, they lost 16 pounds in 30 days. The people that did the Mediterranean diet lost up to 40% of what they did lose was their lean muscle mass. And all of them at 12 months later had gained back on doing the Mediterranean diet, they'd gained back all their weight. These people, wow, they lost a lot more than in 10 months than, in 8 months, 10.2 pounds. It's not even, it's like it's not even in the same zip code. It's like if you saw these results and you wanted to do a traditional diet, you obviously can do that. But the medical results are overwhelming. There's no way you would want to do it if you just had access to the data to see it. That's what we provide for you at the New Health Conversation. And then you get a free consultation, and then 60% of the food you're going to buy comes with 100% money back guarantee, not from the researchers, not from us. You're not buying anything from us. You're buying directly from the fulfillment companies that are supplying the foods, that supply the foods to the medical trials. But they're so assured That's why they'll give you 100% money back guarantee. Now, nothing's 100%, of course. I don't mean, no, they'll give you 100% of your money back. What I meant is that so few people ever ask for a refund because this works. It works. And the key to it is to get you to go and then show you how to stay there. That's why it's called race to maintenance. Notice, to maintenance. Maintenance is the most important part of the whole thing. It's not a question. I mean, we have people that, if you go to the website, there are before and afters. There are men and women there who lost over 100 pounds, no loose skin. You go see. But not only that, we have the medical results. We show their blood pressure, their A1C, their cholesterol, their triglycerides, et cetera. All, we have nothing to hide. We're not making up anything. Because what we're showing you is what are in these 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies. Doesn't that excite you? I know that I have every one of these podcasts, I have tremendous amount of skeptics because you've been so disappointed. Or you think you know, and I'm not being disrespectful. But when you have medical, peer-reviewed human trials done on human beings, not mice, not rats, not in a laboratory, not in a petri dish, it's irrefutable evidence. It's already been reviewed by the top medical doctors and researchers in the world who, interestingly enough, that's where the term peer review comes from. Their job, they get paid to discredit what you're proving because the medical journals don't want to publish something. It's their reputation. So they do the due diligence. They do the research to if they're going to publish it. Now, here's what is interesting. You have an option if you submit, not me, but the researchers told me this, that many people, if they're going to publish your article, some people, they have an out. They paid for the studies, or they get it published. But if the outcome is bad, then they won't publish it. These researchers were so sure this would work, they signed a release saying, once we gave you the data, we have no control. If it comes out that it doesn't back up what we're saying, then you can publish it. That's really rare. The thing that's so exciting about these particular studies, it took them 38 years, and they said unequivocally, there's an interview on the website that is with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world, and he says they'll never recommend a traditional diet that all of you have been on ever again. He said, Peter, it'd be unethical. Why would we tell Mitzi or N-Siri or the Law 56 to go on a diet that we've done for 38 years and lose as much weight in 8 weeks, and 40% of what they lost was lean muscle, and they gained all their weight back? We had people in these studies that lost that much weight in 7 days. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year with no loss of water and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. He said it'd be completely unethical. They'll never, listen to me. They said, it's right in the interview that you can see when you go to, if you go to our website, it's there. There's a long interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. And wait till you see what he says about the shots. Not against the shots, by the way, okay? But wait till you see the medical, the side effects, okay? You might want to be very interested in that. But if we have 80%, which we do, 80% of them are overweight, 50% are obese, 50% pre-diabetic, would anybody like to put in the chat, do you think diets work? It's absurd. It's ridiculous. They don't work. There's no way they can work. So are any of you, I'd just be curious, are any of you, as your main goal for any of you that are on here, if you'd like to comment, are you looking to lose weight? Do you want more energy? Maybe you want to gain weight. Maybe you're on medication. Maybe you want to sleep better. Maybe you want to lower your stress levels. But the biggest thing that we can teach you today is way beyond the weight loss is this medical condition that I did discover that's a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. Big deal. The T is for toxicity, the D is for deficiency, the O is for being overweight, and the S is for stress. And me and you and everybody in the world, we have TDOS syndrome whether we want to or not. We're breathing, we're drinking, we're eating chemicals. We're putting them on our skin. We're brushing our teeth with them. We're washing our hair with chemicals. And what the body does to protect us, we're evolving as a species to take the chemicals and stuff them inside our visceral fat, that fat around our organs. This protocol Through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved that this was assisting our body in removing the herbicides and pesticides, Scotch, even plastic. Did you all see the thing on Starbucks coffee about 2 months ago when they said in 1 cup of Starbucks, and I like Starbucks coffee, you're getting 50 to 80,000 microplastics in every cup? Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you think? They take a paper cup and put 100-degree coffee in there and the thing is going to hold up? I mean, paper straws, what are they lined with? Plastic. There was a big study in Australia about 18 months ago where they estimate that all of us, everybody on here and me and you, we're eating the equivalent of one, do I have it on me? I don't have it on me, but 1 credit card per week in plastic. Wait a minute, you mean in a year I'm going to eat 52 credit cards? Yes. What's my body doing? It's storing them inside my fat cells. Does anyone think that's a good idea? And paleo, keto, none of these are doing anything for that. It's like, it's like we're on the Titanic, and because someone told us it's not going to sink, even though we hit an iceberg, and there were a lot of people that stayed on deck thinking it wasn't going to sink. Some of the lifeboats, I guess, there were enough lifeboats that were launched. They couldn't have saved everybody because they didn't have enough lifeboats. So that was because it was unsinkable. Well, what do we need lifeboats for when it's unsinkable? How'd that turn out? I don't want to discourage you from doing any diet you want to go on, but I would be remiss. It would be horrible if I didn't show you the medical evidence about what's your projected outcome. I mean, when Harvard Medical School is saying, that, oh, I have it right here. I mean, Harvard Medical School, is this it? Wait a minute, hold on. I want to get it right. Stop counting calories. Most people have been taught that losing weight is a matter of simple math. Cut calories, specifically 3,500, and you'll lose a pound. But as it turned out, experts are learning that this decade-old strategy is actually really misguided. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong, says Fatima Stanford, obesity specialist, Harvard Medical School. She goes on to say, drop the calories notion. Instead, we need a new approach by concentrating on what's in the food, not how much food we're consuming. I shared with some of you before on this protocol 5 days a week, you actually end up having 4 meals a day. Not 2, not 3, but 4. But it's based on the principles. It has nothing to do with the calories. It has to do with nutritional density. It has to do with what's in the food, not how much food you're consuming. And do you know nutrition, the body uses it way more efficiently than foods that are lacking in nutrition? That's one of the reasons why people's hunger went down. Because the satisfaction in your body has nothing to do with calories, has nothing to do with quantity, has to do with the quality. That's what the researchers did. That was their whole theory. Could we lower the amount of food people consume, like on all the diets we'd ever done, but not lower the amount of nutrition? Well, guess what they did? You see the results. Men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. Most women lost a whole dress size in 7 days. Men lost up 4 inches off their waist. In a month, people lost as much weight as a year in any diet, lost no water weight. And instead of losing lean muscle, which is what happens on diets and why they say it's unhealthy to lose more than a pound a week on a diet, I totally concur. They actually gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Basically, they lost weight 12 times faster than any diet that's ever been studied or measured. I know you're skeptical. I know this is really too hard to believe. But the medical proof, right there, the New Health Conversation, it's free to go there. The medical proof is there. As a matter of fact, I want to show all of you the actual website. I want you to buy my books. You don't need to. That's why we created the website. Because the website, we can update it literally on a daily basis, hourly basis. Like I have a brand new study today that I just got, Annals of Internal Medicine, about this time-restricted eating where people don't eat for 16 hours and they eat for 8. In this newest study, it was 12 weeks. They lost in 12 weeks 4.6 pounds. This is all nonsense. Do you get it? These are medical. They have no dog in this hunt. They don't work for people that are promoting time-restricted eating. But it's just ludicrous that people by the tens of thousands are following these influencers who are just giving opinions. They have no facts. Well, these are the facts, but they're telling you, well, you can lose 20 pounds in a month. Really? Where's your medical proof? And also, well, the other thing that they said, this is, you'll find this, again, so I don't make up things, right? This is a study done on time-restricted eating at only for 16 hours, done by the Journal of the American Medical Association. This one over here was done by the Annals of Internal Medicine. This is the Journal of American Medical Association, where they said the new research found that overweight adults who were assigned to routinely fast 16 hours daily, eating all their meals between noon and 8, gained almost no benefit from it. And over the course of 3 months, they lost between 2 and 3.5 pounds. And most of the weight they shed was not body fat, but lean muscle mass. There's your downfall. I mean, it's not the only study. I mean, here's another one, 12 months, Annals of Internal Medicine. In 12 months in this study, the average weight loss after a year was 10 pounds. You understand why they wouldn't want to do peer-reviewed studies on their own? So these researchers who stuck their necks out and put their reputations on the line, because they've done 38 years analyzing all the diets we'd all know, paleo, keto, Mediterranean, Cornish diet, zone diet, you lose weight for your blood type, Atkins, Jenny Craig Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, on and on and on. 38 years, 100 studies, thousands of people. And really what they figured out was what didn't work, because they knew that every diet out there, people lost weight initially. So the diets worked until they didn't. And the first indication was that the weight loss all but stopped. People plateaued. Because, hey, we're not arguing. You can lose weight on any diet out there. But you're doing, by lowering calories, you're doing two of the most unhealthy things you could ever imagine you're doing to yourself. Number one, when you're going on a diet, what you're really doing is lowering the quantity of the food you're consuming. And what they never tell you is, at the same time, less food means what? Less nutrition. When the brain figures out there's not enough nutrition, it goes in starvation mode. It prevents you from burning fat and turns your muscles into carbohydrates for fuel. So the first unhealthy thing it does, it slows down your metabolism. And it's not like you can turn that back on. It's like you come off the diet, and they've proven 90% of all the weight you gain back on these diets is fat. Because to produce 1 pound of lean muscle, according to the experts, they say even if you go to the gym and you do everything right coming off one of these diets, it'll take you a year to regain 1 pound. So let's say you just lost 20 pounds on a diet. 40% of this lean muscle mass is 8 pounds. That'll only take you 8 years. That's why these diets, that's why it becomes cumulative. That's why all the weight loss and the statistics are going like this. I mean, in 2008, so 16 years ago, there were only 60% of America, I should say only, but 60% were overweight and obese. Now this year, 16 years later, it's 80% overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic, 33% of our kids are pre-diabetic. Are you kidding me? What are we doing? We're believing the influencers telling us something that they believe. But again, it's like 550 years ago, the smartest people in the world thought one thing. The world was flat. I think that's where we are right now. You're not going to convince me that if 80% of America's overweight and 50% are obese and 50% pre-diabetic, that these diets are working. Which one would work? None, zero. Yeah. No, Jay Rocco, you don't eat 5 times a day. That has nothing to do with it, okay? Let's see. I love to learn more in regards to menopause weight. Okay, so Jada, I'll take, and then Rocco, and then I'll take them in order. So Jada Mingo. All I can tell you is that probably the average age is maybe late 30s to 90. But of course, many women complain about menopause and hot flashes and stuff. All I can tell you is that many of them have reported back to us. Now remember, we're not treating, curing, diagnosing, or making any medical recommendations whatsoever. But I can talk in general terms for you. And that is that most women, when they go on this, although they're shocked, can you imagine, Jada, if you lose as much weight in the first 4 days as in a month of dieting? That's common with no exercise. Let me repeat that. The people in the studies lost in 4 days what took them 4 weeks on diets. And they went on in a week, they lost what took 8 weeks. But let's just give us 4 days. On the 5th morning, despite the weight loss was insane in their minds. The number one thing they said, even after 4 days, I can't believe how good I feel. So again, no promises. Plus the other thing you have to understand, Jada, what's so different about this, it comes with a 100% money back guarantee from 60% of the food. You don't buy anything from us. You're not buying from the researchers. 40% of what you buy and you get a grocery list is from the grocery store. The other 60% are from these 5 foods that come from around the world, from Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, Tibet, South America, New Zealand. And those foods have tremendous amounts of nutrition, not tremendous. So it's not quantity, it's quality, okay? And the point is that what you're putting in your body, if it's food in North America, it's really, really nutritionally insufficient. So like, for example, Rocco, you're right. Our food is really becoming nutritionally bankrupt. Let me give you a couple examples. They estimate an orange from 30 years ago today to equal the nutrition of 1 orange. You have to eat about 6 oranges. You have to eat close to 10 to 12 apples. But this is shocking. Spinach, which I think Popeye's food, we're all familiar with that. Cornell University did a study on iron levels in spinach from 1953 to today. They say they have decreased by 4,300%. So this whole concept of eating healthy. Let me give you an example of one of the things we're the most deficient in. Rocco, you may know this, you may not. One of the things we need in the human body that are critical, they're called the spark plugs of life, okay? Like, think of the spark plugs in your car. They're called trace ionic minerals, not chelated minerals, okay? Now, you've heard of iron, calcium, magnesium. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about trace minerals of things like gold and silver and zinc and beryllium and boron and molybdenum. We need 70. Got that, everyone? 70. In the best organic food you can eat, even if you eat 5 times a day, you're only getting 20 out of 70. So you can see it doesn't matter about the quantity, it matters about the quality. Well, what about the other 50 that we need? So you're in a deficit even when you're trying to eat healthy. The researchers knew that. They found a source that had all 70 trace ionic minerals. They were creating the world's most perfect meal nutritionally, which you would have 5 days a week for breakfast and then a 4th meal after your dinner, because lunch and dinner, they give you a grocery list of what you eat from the grocery store, 40% of what you spend. The other 60% come from these 5 foods around the world that you can't get at your grocery store. You can't even grow it yourself because they come from regions of the world where they haven't used herbicides, pesticides, and the soil is really rich because it's been, cultivated over the centuries, really. But look at the medical proof. Don't believe me. Go and look at the website. Look at the medical proof. There are before and afters there. If I showed them on social media, they would ban me. They'd say you photoshopped them. We didn't Photoshop anything. Wait till you see some of the before and afters in 4 or 5 weeks are beyond comprehension. You will swear we Photoshopped it. We didn't. Let's see. Yeah, so Jada, that's one of the things. Okay, Minion, Key, Soul, Jay Rocco. I use good. That's a good start, Jay. But you have to understand that's a tiny part of what you could do to maximize your quality. And Jay, don't get mad at me when I tell you this. You have no idea right now how bad you actually feel because you don't understand how good you could feel. You're working on 20 minerals out of 70. It'd be like an 8-cylinder car. Imagine, Rocco, unplug 6 of your spark plugs. It'll still run, but you see what I'm saying? We're living these less than lifestyles because we don't know what else to do. So let me come back to Ozempic. So it just so happens, Minion, I have a big study here from the New England Journal of Medicine. It's a 68-week study on semaglutide, one of the GLP-1s, sister to Ozempic and all these other things that they have out there, right? Now, I'm only going to give you what they found in the studies, okay? So, Minion, in 68 weeks, the average weight loss was only 32 pounds in 68 weeks. And right in the study, every person, 40% of what they were losing was lean muscle mass. Now, of course, they said these are really great results. In these 10, not one, 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies, the average weight loss, men and women who weren't allowed to exercise, 80% women, 20% men, was 16 pounds in 30 days. With no loss of water, and not only didn't they lose lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. What? Show me a diet that you could do that on. I mean, this it doesn't exist until now. And the main reason to do this is not even to lose weight. As I said, most women lose a whole, Jada, imagine losing a whole dress size in 7 days with no exercise. What? But women report energy, mental focus, let alone all those, hormone issues, right? But we know, you guys weren't on when I talked about this. This is the biggest thing that you and me, we're all fighting, this TDOS syndrome. Stands for toxicity driven by deficiency causing you to be overweight and stressed. So I have it, Jada, you have it, Jay, you have, every person has this. What it means is we're breathing, drinking, eating chemicals, we're storing them inside our visceral fat. Again, I don't want any of you to believe me, but let's go to the world experts. Wait till you hear this. You wonder why your hormones are messed up? Listen to this. The Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones in the clinical practice of endocrinology, reports that the rise in the incidence of obesity matches the rise in the use and distribution of industrialized chemicals. They call these chemicals obesogens. Listen to this. Simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They enter our body from a variety of sources, from natural compounds in soy, hormones fed to animals, plastics in food packaging, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed on a produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking human hormones, such as estrogen, ladies, are you paying attention? And blocking the action of other hormones, such as testosterone. Are you listening, men? And essentially, they reprogram us to gain weight. You wonder about your hormones? And in these studies, where they measured blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved this protocol was assisting the body in doing what? Removing the obesogens from the body. Does it make sense now that maybe women reported they felt way better in a short period of time? They were stunned. You understand? Stunned. No one's ever seen anything like this, including these researchers. You got to understand, when they started, they didn't know what to expect. No one had ever done what they were embarking on, because it didn't make sense that, wait a minute, can we lower the amount of food people consume, but not lower the amount of nutrition or increase it? It was a theory. It was an experiment. But it worked. And these studies, which started about 6 years ago, 80%, and by the way, 80% women, 20% men. So the weight loss numbers are even more impressive, because actually women ended up losing as much weight as men, unlike diets. But the main reason to do this is not to lose the weight. In 30 days, people what? Their blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, all came down dramatically in 30 days. And when they measured, for the first time ever, they measured inflammation. If I have medical people in here, this will make sense to you. There's a medical study that you can do to measure inflammation. It's called T, like a Tom, T bars. And they measure a C-reactive protein in interleukin 1. Those biomarkers, they're called biomarkers, came down 25% in 30 days, with inflammation being the underlying cause of every disease, including these hormone issues. Do you see what I'm saying? People's hunger came down 41% in 30 days. 41%. It's not a diet. Don't get dieting out of your mind. If you want diets, there's plenty of influencers. You can go and see them today with 10 million followers, chiropractors, and they get 10 million, whatever. But what they're presenting to you has no medical proof. And obviously, this is a game changer. Because the researchers, when they did the blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they talk about this in an interview on our website with the #1 weight loss nutrition physiologist in the world who conducted the studies, who said they'll never recommend any form of traditional diet ever again. But he said, we were so shocked with the numbers, we had to run them 3 different times. In 38 years, they'd never seen anything like this. And they've been pursuing sort of the secret code for obesity for 38 years in 100 studies, thousands of people. These are the top people in the world. It's not Peter Greenlaw. I have nothing to do. I'm the researcher of the researchers. It says that right there. Okay, hold on just a second. It's not, so lamb goat soup, it's not just a protein source. It's protein, it's 70 trace ionic minerals, it's very specific enzymes, and it has I didn't explain that to everybody, I should have. That's a great point. Let me address that in my husband, I think you meant home country, Ghana, weight was coming off naturally. I knew it was the nutrients. You're right, John. 100% correct, right? So let's talk about the world's most perfect meal. Lamb, goat, soup. That's a great question. I would prefer to know how I can make this at home. You can't make it at home. Okay, lamb, goat. There's no food you can buy in the grocery store unless you can go to Russia, you can go to Muncher. I'm not being silly, I'm serious. So 40%, we give you a list. Yes, you can shop. You go to the grocery store for those foods, fats, proteins, carbs, salads, fruit, etc. But only 40% of what you consume. The other 5 foods that make the world's most perfect meal, and I'm going to explain that to you in just a moment, they come from all over the world because the food in North America is becoming more and more nutritionally insufficient. We still have nutrients, but we have less of them, okay? So let's start with the research. Now remember, the researchers, they don't sell you anything. They don't have products. They're not a company. They're just scientists. Does everybody understand that? I want everybody to get that clearly. This is not, they're not salespeople. They have nothing. No, they're pure scientists, right? And they figured this out. But it was a theory. They didn't even know if it was going to work. So what makes up the world's most perfect meal, okay? The first thing was what I just was talking about before. One of the things we're missing the most in our food are what are called trace ionic minerals. We need 70. I'm not talking about iron, calcium, magnesium. I'm talking about things like gold and silver and zinc and beryllium and boron and molybdenum. We need 70. And the best organic food you can go to the store and buy, this way you can't make it at home, you get 20 out of 70. So the first thing on the plate was part of one of the food sources that contained all 70 trace ionic mineral. Not 20, not 30, not 40, all 70. So that was number one. Number two was this protein source that had the minerals in it, and it had these very specific enzymes that no other protein source that we've been able to see so far had. So it was a combination of the minerals along with the enzymes and along with one other thing that was added to the perfect world, natural sourced vitamins. I know you're going to tell me now, well, I take a multivitamin. Yeah, it's made in a lab, it's synthetic. The absorbability of it is very, very low compared to natural vitamins. So now the first perfect meal is a combination of things. Like when you do a meal, you have different foods on your plate, right? You have a vegetable, maybe you have a starch, you have a protein, you have a carbohydrate, whatever, right? So, but this is a different kind of meal they're making. They're making a nutritional, the world's most perfect meal. And that contained the 70 minerals. It contained I was going to finish that about amino acids. I'm sorry. I guess I did talk about that. So there was a 91% absorption of amino acids, right? Also these natural vitamins. And the fourth thing they found was an electrolyte, but like no electrolyte that they were aware of. And they don't sell it. They have nothing to do with that, the researchers. But it had no sugar, no artificial sweeteners. And the fifth thing they used they're called adaptogens. They come from Mongolia and Manchuria in Russia. Now, what do adaptogens do? They massively lower, you're going to like this, stress in your body. And more importantly, they're responsible for lowering the inflammation by 25% in 30 days. And see, this is not a sales gimmick, because if you go to the website, you'll see inflammation came down 25% in a month. It's not up for debate. Does that make sense to all of you? So, Rocco, see, that's the problem. Methylated vitamins are synthetic, very difficult for the body. When you have natural source vitamins, you don't have to worry about methylation. It's natural. It already occurs. Great question. Great. It's not narration. It's not pre-recorded. It's live. It's 3:27 on 10:28. I'm Peter Greenlaw. You can see my cheeks. I'm not AI. I'm actually real. I have written, you can even look me up. I've written 4 best-selling books that you can see right there. The Why Diets Are Failing Us, the TDOS Syndrome, the TDOS Solutions, and Your Third Brain, just to let you know. So the point being that I've spent 21 years of my life as a nutritional researcher. I've worked with some of the top medical doctors in the world who, that's what they taught me. It's not I'm not giving you opinions. My opinion should mean zero to you. And that's why I defend our website is the purest free hold free access for all you to go there and see the the medical proof, because that's what we're definitely up against. Now, so Jed, it does make sense. Narration 1, yes, say hi. Okay, so narration 1, do you understand I'm real? What, do you want me to do something, sing? I don't sing. No, I'm serious. I live in Colorado, in Denver, Colorado. I'm looking out my window now. I think it's about 75 degrees here. So I just want y'all to know that this is live. It's not Memorex, okay? The website, okay, I'm going to put it right down here for all of you. It's also above my head there. You can see it, the New Health Conversation. That is the website. You can go there, although I'm going to put it, okay, hold on. Let me put it right under your name. Okay, here we go. I doubled it for you there, narration 1. See it, the New Health Conversation. No spaces. Free to go there for all of you. If you go there, we will not contact you by phone, smoke signal, email, text. We're not going to contact you, because what we wanted to do was to set, there's no books to buy. I'm going to show everybody the website here. Hold on. No, we're not trying to fake you out. It's not like, oh, we'll go to our website and we'll tell you what's going on. No. So if you do go there and you like what you see, scroll down. It says sign up for a free personal consultation. Now, why do we do that? Because we don't know anything about you. Let's just assume, like I think it was half the time I see so many pre-recorded lives. Haha. Yeah, what's the name of the product? It's called R2M, Race to Maintenance. It's not a product. It's a whole series of, it's not just because it's part food from the grocery store. It's 5 foods that come from around the world, and then very specific, complete new ways of consuming food that we teach you. As a matter of fact, we even go one step farther in the medical studies. Hopefully I've got it here somewhere. Oh, here it is. We actually give you, it's called the Blueprint for Success. And I know you can't read these, but all these yellows are video tutorials from the researchers who did this. They don't sell anything. They don't have a company. They're completely giving you the data behind the research and showing you exactly what to do. Because 50% is what you're going to consume, and the other 50% comes from how you do it, just to be clear. That's why also we won't let anybody do it without getting a free coach. It's not fair to you. If you're going to spend your time and effort and money, then you want to get the best possible information to get the greatest possible result. I mean, all I can tell you is that men and women doing this are losing as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. Most women lose a whole dress size in a week. Most guys 4 inches or more off their waist in 7 days. In a month, people lost as much weight as a year in any diet, no loss of water, gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Now, before you push back, which I know happens on every one of these podcasts, oh, it's unhealthy to lose that much weight that fast on a diet. Yeah, this is not a diet. Because we have the proof on every diet, you're losing up to 4. Congratulations on your weight loss. 40% is lean muscle mass. I don't care what the name of the diet is. They're all the same. Rebbe, is it long-term? Yes, Rebbe. It's called R2M, which stands for Race to Maintenance. So the idea is to get you to your goal. That's the end of the beginning. Then put you on maintenance. I lost 40 pounds 21 years ago. Actually, 22 years. I've kept it off for 22 years. That should be the goal. It's not a question, can we get the weight off you in a 1/12 of the time of any diet? But it would make no sense to get you there and then not show you how to continue. And the continuation is really simple. It's as simple as one of the world's most perfect meal once a day in the morning. That's it. These aren't supplements. It's not supplements. Someone was asking me about methylated, supplements. That's the problem. They're made in a lab. Not this. This is the only natural source vitamins in the world in these 5 foods that make up the world's most perfect meal. Not my opinion, but these are the top weight loss, nutrition, and physiologists in the world. They're the ones that figured this out. And again, you're not buying anything from them or from me or from us. You're buying from the grocery store, you get your grocery list, you go and shop, but the other 5 foods come from all over the world, and those suppliers, this is crazy, but it's not. They offer you 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days on 60% of what you're going to consume. If that's not cool, I don't know what would be. Let's see. Yes, synthetic supplements are terrible. Narration one, I'm very, very impressed with your knowledge. I love it when people come on. And it's not so much, it's better than the naysayers that come on and they call me names, and it's okay. But the difference is, see, here's the difference. When you have 10, I didn't do the studies, I'm not the researcher, but when you have 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies, and that's the only thing that you're quoting from, you're not making claims, you're bulletproof. It's irrefutable evidence. So whatever comments people make, it's based on their opinion, but it's not based on facts. And I do get my share of people that are, I'd say, critics. But in a lot of cases, it's because they think they know something that apparently 10 peer-reviewed studies over 38 years, they know more than them? Don't think so. So let's see, synthetics do, yeah, exactly, narration one. So narration one, or any of you can see that you can go to, why is that happening? Okay, there we go. Why, you can go to that website, The New Health Conversation, you can see it, it's free to go there. There's nothing to buy there. There's no celebrity endorsements. None of my books are there. It's just the pure medical science. Look, can anybody put in the chat, yes or no, whether it's narration, whether it's Rebbe, whether any of you? Do you feel I'm being honest, open, and fair? What else would you want me to do, or us, than to give you the medical proof for you to see without any harassment, without us contacting you? We're that confident if you take your time to go and look at the medical proof, you're going to want to sign up for a free personal consultation. See, we don't... I just went to YouTube. It's not a new program. I'd like to hear more. I'm sorry, what do you mean it's not a new program? I'm confused, okay? I just went on YouTube. It's not a new program. I'd like to hear more. Again, please clarify for me, Rebbe, so I can answer that. I'm not sure what you're referring to. For example, these peer-reviewed human trial studies, they were started about 6 years ago. They just came out really in the last 14 months. They take a long time to do them and come out. The protocol itself was refined in the medical studies, okay? That there's data on it. There's data on the R2M protocol, you're saying? Just, again, Rebbe, I'm not trying to be difficult. I just want to make sure that I'm clear so I can give you a clear answer. Okay. Well, I own R2M, the R2M, not the R2M protocol. I own what's called intermittent nutritional fasting, which we've actually been doing for quite some time. But there was never any medical proof behind it. That was one of the problems, okay? So really what happened, to tell all of you, so when I met the researchers who had nothing to do with me, but they were doing this independent research on this new protocol that they had invented, essentially what they proved, the thing that they brought to it that I never knew about before was protein pacing, which was these 5 foods for breakfast, a lunch, a dinner. Well, lunch and dinner were from the grocery store. And they made, see, here's what happened. They made the grocery list, not me. So that was something we didn't have, that part of it, right? And I'm sorry, we didn't have protein pacing either. And protein pacing, at first I struggled with it because it was like, what do you mean people are going to have, no, it has nothing to do with high protein complex, Rocco. If you listen to me, the problem with protein is the fact that the protein itself is a poison to us. It's actually a toxin. What's not converted into amino acids, the kidneys have to get rid of. I promise I'll come back to that in a moment, but I want to go back to Rabbi for just a moment. So what's so different about this is that, so they created the grocery list that you could buy from, but also they added some things that over the course of, when I met them, it's been a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, they added other elements to this protocol that, I had never used before, okay? And the key to it was that when they said, protein pacing, and they were going to give people 4 meals a day, I went, what? So I struggled with that, right? Because I still had a little bit of that mentality about, well, less is more. No, 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 not necessarily, okay? And so when they brought that part to it along, in other words, how can I say, the protocol of what people actually did, right? Well, the results went crazy off the charts. I mean, like things we'd never seen before. But not just the weight loss, and here was the other thing. You have to understand, for over 20 years, we didn't know that all these things were happening. And all of these, removing toxins from the body, that was crazy, out of left field. So what I'm saying is that what they brought to it was the scientific, how do I want to say it? Not just proof, but showing that it was going to change the world. Because the researchers, you got to understand, they didn't know until they did blood, stool, urine, fat analysis, and then inflammation. Now, they've been doing weight loss studies for 38 years, hundreds of people, thousands of people, as a matter of fact. And what happened is that they'd always done blood, stool, urine, and fat and muscle mass analysis. But when honest to God, when they saw these results, they were shocked. Now, again, these studies started like 5 or 6 years ago. So, I mean, when you say this form of it has only really come to light when these medical studies got published. As a matter of fact, ironically, before they get published, you can't talk about them. I'll give you an example. Here's a brand new study that was done, it came out 4 months ago in Nature Communications, Rabbi. It's the #1 medical journal in the world. Now, here's an example of what we didn't know. This was about the gut, specifically the gut microbiome, which, if you know about that basically is your immune system in your gut. And I'm kind of an expert on it because I wrote the definitive book called Your Third Brain. I wrote it, and you can maybe see him there. He's considered to be the top oncologist in the world. He's a molecular biologist. He worked with 2 men who won the Nobel Prize in medicine. And he's so esteemed that most medical doctors or scientists, they want to get published in these big medical journals, right? And in a lifetime, if they get 20 or 30 published, it's a lot. My colleague had published 237 papers in the biggest medical journals in the world, and 2 of his papers are in the top 10% of all medical papers ever published, okay? So our book, which had nothing to do with this, in this case, the gut microbiome, but you see, we were pioneers. I was always along that trail. So in essence, it was kind of like maybe the perfect storm where the researchers, so there were things that I was able to bring to the table that we had generally known about, but it was all anecdotal. It didn't matter. It had the thing that makes us so different are these 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies now, which cover, and I always tell people, don't even do this to lose weight. That's the last reason. So the theory was essential to create the world's most perfect meal. It was totally based on nutrition. That's what the researchers brought to it. They knew that, all right? And so they added some things like these naturally sourced vitamins, as opposed to a synthetic vitamin. Because again, if someone has MTHFR gene, you have to buy a methylated synthetic vitamin that's made in a laboratory. Well, look, anytime you're putting something in your body that's, synthetic, not quite as good as the natural source. And I don't know if that answered all your questions, Rabbi, or not. I'm not trying to be evasive. It's just, this is a pretty complicated thing. We've tried to make it as easy for people to follow as possible. And you can see if you did go, on social media, I'm very active. I think that I'm the most active person on social media because I'm doing at least 3 of these podcasts a day. I've probably done, I think on my TikTok, I have 500 or 600, anywhere from 5 to 10-minute reels talking about this whole evolution of what's happened. And I want to be honest with you, for 20 years, the medical community, there was no interest. Even though I wrote 4 best-selling books with medical, they listened to me, but I'm just talking in general terms. And I understand why, because it also becomes a liability issue. Especially, I work now with one of the biggest oncologists in the country in San Francisco. I've known her for like 14 years, and she would never take a look at this until 14 months ago when I sent her the peer-reviewed study. She called me the next day, and she said, "This is unbelievable." And I'm proud to say she's referred about 100 patients to me personally in the last year. I do, not that I'm some big deal, but when it comes to things like that, I have a lot of experience. And of course, my one colleague is probably one of the, not her, but my other colleague is one of the top oncologists in the world, and we've been able to collaborate. And look, we're not curing, treating, diagnosing any medical conditions. Let's be clear. We're not doing that, okay? All I'm saying to you is, if you go to the website, you can see the medical, there's a long interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. He does a much better job of explaining this to you and everybody than I can possibly do. And it's on the website. So it's not like on my YouTube, it's not there. Only because we want people to be able to go to this free landing site to see everything, right? Yes, thank you. Niner says key and critical aminos are the critical factor. You're right, narration 1. But let me come back to that, because someone was saying, oh, Katie Smet, do you drink the RTM protocol protein shakes? Yes, of course I do. But in a completely different way. Maybe you know that, but again, let me, hold on just a second. Let's see, I know. Oh, Jay Rocco, high protein complex. Let me see, did I answer that for you? Okay, so Jay, let me go back to all of you for that huge misunderstanding. So protein itself, this will shock some of you, the protein is nothing more than the shell that houses the amino acids that we all need. They're called the building blocks of life. You wouldn't even be alive if you didn't have amino acids. There are 9, you have to get them from your diet. 11 are, so those are called essential, and then there's 11 that are non-essential. So when you ingest protein from a plant or an animal, what does the body do? It breaks open the protein like breaking open a walnut shell, and it extracts the 20 amino acids. So that's when they're telling you, have 120 grams of protein or 150 grams. They're completely nuts, wrong. Doesn't even, it's crazy when I'm going to explain to you. I didn't make this discovery, okay? But in Europe, about 9 or 10 years ago, they developed a test. It's called net nitrogen utilization. When you ingest protein, they can tell you get all 20 amino acids. So yeah, let's celebrate that. But that means nothing to your body. The only thing your body cares about, that's like what with synthetic methylated vitamins versus natural vitamins, is the absorption. So when they measured, like for example, plant-based protein, the absorption of the 20 amino acids, and I don't mean to make vegans mad, I'm just giving you the science. The absorption of a plant-based protein is 10% out of 100. All animal proteins, steak, chicken, liver, fish, whatever, are 30%, right? Well, the researchers found a protein source where the absorption was 91%. So again, Rocco, was it Rocco? I can't remember who asked me that question. I think it was Rocco. So the absorption of the protein, and here's what's sad. When you do meats, 70% is turned into toxic waste. They actually have a name. They're called nitrogen catabolites. Keep in mind, everyone, I'm not making anything up. This is the science. You don't have to believe it. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm just giving you the science. And those nitrogen catabolites are called toxins. Yeah, toxins. And the kidneys have to get rid of them. They're things like urea, creatine, ammonia, and glucose or sugar. So the whole point of what the researchers tried to do was, could they lower the amount of food people were consuming, but not lower the nutrition? So Rocco, let me give you an example. So if you took a steak, a 1-pound steak, 1 serving of this protein, you would have to consume 3 pounds of steak to equal the amino acids in this protein source from 1 serving. You see what I'm saying? But the problem would be that those 3 pounds of steak would also produce like 210 grams of waste that your kidneys would have to get rid of. That's why, God forbid you ever had a friend in kidney dialysis, they don't want them to have any protein at all. And yet it's so critical for life. Do you know that you probably didn't know this, but when you lower lean muscle mass, which is the case on every single diet, you impact your own immune system. Now, how can I say that? Because again, my colleague who wrote this pretty famous book, I don't want you to buy my books. I'm not showing you my books to buy my books. Forget that. We're not doing that, okay? But he was the one that taught me, because sadly in 2010, my younger brother was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And he was 6'4", and from diagnosis until he passed away was 8 months. And when he died, he weighed 112 pounds. And my colleague told me that the thing they guard against the most in cancer is people losing weight, because the majority of what they're losing is lean muscle mass. And in the case of my brother, there's no way he couldn't have eaten 3 steaks or 5 steaks or whatever it was. So my colleague, obviously I couldn't do anything about my brother, but moving forward, we've helped an awful lot of people, and we're not curing cancer. Don't hear me say that. But if we can help to stabilize the loss of lean muscle, probably their quality of life is going to greatly be improved, their energy, a lot of things like that. That's why this is not a diet. The main reason to do this is to maximize your quality of life potential for the rest of your life. That's what's called R2M, race to maintenance. See, do you agree on diets you always have a goal? I'm going to a wedding, I want to fit in my skinny jeans, whatever it might be. But now you've reached your goal. Now what? What do you do next? That's where, well, number one, and the weight you've lost is up to 40% of your lean muscle mass, even as a healthy person. That's a bad thing. It's a really bad thing. And who are these influencers are telling you that, yeah, exactly. Eggs are about 48%. You're pretty close. That's a nutritionist on there. Good. Okay. No, lamb, goat, eggs are not 100% bioavailable. He's absolutely right. As a matter of fact, it's more like 41%, just to be more accurate. Because my colleague, who I wrote the book with, because of the cancer patients, he did the analysis on this protein source. It wasn't even done by the fulfillment of the suppliers who supplied. So it's really crazy. Who was asking me about that before, about how all this came together. So it wasn't like the fulfillment companies that even figured out that one of their protein sources had a 91% absorption. I should have told her, look, there's so many moving parts to this, and I'm not trying to be evasive. It's just like, oh my gosh, it really, even for me, sometimes it's overwhelming. But look at the results. As a matter of fact, the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. The main reason to do it is to help your own body get rid of the chemicals that were stored inside our visceral fat. My God, visceral fat shrank by 33% in 8 weeks with no exercise. On all the other diets, people lost lean muscle up to 40%. Okay, let's see. Can I buy some? I'm going to consider this. What's this from? A lamb, goat. Can I buy some? I'm not quite sure. Well, first of all, lamb, goat soup. Let me explain something to you. We want you to be able to have a free consultation with one of our coaches. We don't want you spending a penny. But before you even do that, we invite you to go to the website, look at the medical proof, and I promise you, we will not contact you. We won't call you. We won't email. You don't have to, there's no information you have to put there. But if you want to do a free consultation with one of our coaches, scroll down, it says free consultation, and they'll schedule it with you. It's free. And also, here's what else is unique. It's someone who's done the protocol and been trained by us on how to implement it. Because we have all kinds of people. We have kids as young as 2. We have people 90. We have a guy with a heart transplant. We got people with no thyroids, people that have kidney transplant. We're not treating, curing, diagnosing any medical diseases. We're just giving people the world's most perfect meals. And that kind of helps them. It's really that. It's complicated, but it's that simple. And you can't grow it in your own backyard. We've basically, the soil in North America at a minimum is massively compromised. Let's just say that, to be fair. We've got mountains of food, tremendous amounts, but very little nutrition. And look what's happening to America. You're seeing it now in the national news. They're talking about the food companies being in conspiracy, toxins. I've kind of been talking about that for like 22 years. I was the canary in the coal mine. And I look at all these other influencers, with all due respect. Effectively, are they showing you any medical proof? The kinds of things I'm talking about, like, for example, has anyone ever talked to you before about the TDOS syndrome? Probably not. Has anyone ever mentioned to you obesogens, the chemicals that were stored inside our fat cells? Let me read one more excerpt from another world-class expert, nothing to do with me, just proving my point. Frederick von Saul, professor of biological science, University of Missouri, Columbia. Obesogens. These are the chemicals we're storing in our body, obesogens. are acting by hijacking our regulatory system that controls our body weight. This presence of obesogens is the first reason that traditional dieting methods have become outdated. Never before have traditional low carbohydrate, low calorie diets been forced to accommodate for this level of synthetic chemicals and their adverse effects they have on our health. The body's attempt to protect itself from the constant assault of synthetic toxins results in the production and storage of fat. What are you doing about that? Did you ever even hear the term obesogens before today on this podcast? You know, before COVID, I'd done over 1,500 lectures all over the world. I'm very proud about that, across the United States, Canada, Mexico. I even went to China. It was a wonderful experience. I was there for like 16 days, did like 12 lectures. But COVID stopped it all. So I want to credit my youngest son for turning me on, particularly to TikTok. I didn't want to have any. I had a whole misconception about it. And now, wow, it's really been fantastic. And that's why I want to stay always within the rules. It's why I don't show you before and afters, because I don't want to get banned, which I would. If I showed those before and afters, which you can see, they're on their website. Go look at them yourself. But there's an interview with the number one, a video interview, a podcast with the number one nutritional researcher in the world. Don't believe Peter Greenlaw, but don't you owe it to yourself to at least go and investigate? I mean, you may not believe what's up there, that you could lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lose as much weight in a month as a year in any diet, lose no water and gain 6 to 9% lean muscle. I get your skepticism. It's so far out of the norm. It's like, no, this guy's crazy. And even if I was crazy, these medical trials, there's 10 of them. It's irrefutable medical evidence, proven by the top medical experts in the world. Not the researchers, they submit their work and then it gets scrutinized by the top experts in the world who have one job: to discredit what they're proving. Well, they got published in 10 of the biggest medical publications in the world. And it works, right? You can do blood tests absolutely for obesogens. And obesogens, it's O-B-E-S-O-G-O-N, obesogens. Yeah, you spelled it right. I'm sorry. O-B-E-S-O. You missed the O. Obese. I think it's obesogens. I've got it somewhere here. Oh, wait a minute. It's right here. O-B-E-S-O. I was right. O-B-E-S-O-G-E-N-S. I don't want you to spell it wrong. O-B-E-S-O-G-E-N-S, obesogens, okay? Yes, there are blood tests you can do to determine that. But they did, through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, just to let you know, lamb, goat, soup, that's how they were able to measure that these chemicals were leaving the body, okay? And you understand that in all the studies that have ever been done, this is the first one that ever proved that, because they had always done blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis on 38 years, 100 studies, all the diets out there, never saw any evidence that chemicals were leaving the body, just to let you know. That's why this is such a big deal. But I said before, that's why the researchers were so shocked. Can you imagine, after 38 years, 100 studies, seeing things they'd never seen before? Do you know, all of you, 92.3% of the population in this country, according to CDC, Center for Disease Control, is metabolically unhealthy with 3 of 5 factors: overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high triglycerides. All 5 came down dramatically just in 30 days. That's why I keep telling all of you, don't do this to lose weight. That's the throw-in. I know that's really exciting. And we have to warn you on the 5th morning, your scale's not broken. You just think it is, right? So let's see. If protein is only absorbed less than 50% and nitrogen is over 50% in all source plants. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. How do I eat nutritionally dense food but consider these factors? Well, that's what the researchers found, lamb, goat, soup. They found these, they located these food sources that come, they didn't find them. Other people found them from Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria that had these nutrients in them. So, by the way, lamb, goat, we're not talking about a animal protein, steak, chicken, not an egg, but lamb. They're only 30%, 70% is and the catabolites, which are called nitrogen catabolites to be specific, that the body has to get rid of. So this is really revolutionary. It's a huge breakthrough. Truth be told, Katie Smet, let's see. So talk to a consultant, and I get these food sources you're referring to. Many people may not. Yes, you go and you set up a free consultation. You just go to the website right there, the New Health Conversation, and you get to do a free consultation, and they'll go over everything with how do you fix leaky gut. Again, one of the things that should be very exciting to you is this study right here, and you can see it on our website. It's Nature Communications, the #1 medical journal in the world, that dealt specifically with the gut microbiome, which includes leaky gut, Crohn's, colitis, irritable bowel. I mean, microbiome doesn't have anything to do with that, but it's the healing property. In these studies, in just a month, people's symptoms dramatically changed. And in 8 weeks, whether it was leaky, I mean, when you see the results, it'll blow your mind. This is the #1 medical journal in the world. And that study, that's why I keep telling people, don't do this to lose weight. But as far as your leaky gut goes, this could be amazing for you. Amazing. That's why I keep emphasizing with all of you, it's not a weight loss program. I know everybody gets excited about that. That's the main thing that they want to have happen, right? But that's not the main reason to do this. So what I'm inviting all of you to do is to essentially go to the website, look, see what you want to see there for yourself. Journal, it's on the website. Let me show you again, just so you can. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Let's see. Okay, well, somebody's putting it in there for me. Yeah, well, it's pretty amazing. Yes, thank you. Okay, no, thank you. Thank all of you for literally being on here. I think it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. So would either Kay or Truth Behold or anybody on any of the platforms, are there any other questions that you'd like to? I can't believe it's been almost 2 hours. Woo! I guess time flies when you're having fun. But and I notice we do have a nutritional expert. Oh, JD Weight Loss. I don't know. I didn't know JD Weight Loss. Okay, he found me kind of on whatever, but he's completely independent, and I think he would tell you that with all his experience, he was schooled. He's worked with many, many people, that he's never seen anything like this. That's so cool. We really have this movement, this community of people called the New Health Conversation. Like I had a lady on a couple hours ago on my live. She came on. I don't even know who she is. She said, Peter, in 4 days, she lost 14 inches and 11 pounds in 4 days. 4 days. Should have been on that podcast. You would have seen it. See, the thing about what we're doing, we don't have to trick people. We don't have to twist your arm. We're not here to sell you or convince you. We're here to educate you. And we believe if we give you the space to be uninhibited, not interrupted, you can go to the website and see all the medical proof, including those medical studies, which I just was showing with lamb goat soup. And truth be told, the same thing. You can go there and see like lamb. He asked me what journal. Well, you don't have to, just go to the website. It's all there. You have to go hunting around for things. It's all there for you to see. But can you all imagine the massive change in the gut in just in 4 weeks and 8 weeks, and then obviously in a year? It was unbelievable. It's not a drug. It's all, but it's not like, how can I say it? It's the combination of things. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's not just, so still 40% of the food people consumed, even in the microbiome study, came from the grocery store. But the other 60% came from those foods from around the world, and look what happened. Again, I would ask, any of the ladies or women on here, how excited would you be if you could lose a whole dress size in 7 days? I'm not crazy. You'll go there. You'll see men and women with the before and afters. They lost like 100 pounds. They have no loose skin. There's one woman on there. She It's like, I think it was 5 weeks for before and after. If I showed it on here, they'd ban me. I'm not kidding you. The shrinkage in her is insane with no loose skin. And most of them, not that the researchers were against exercise, but they didn't let anybody exercise because they didn't want exercise to be a factor. Because then they wouldn't have known, what will this protocol all by itself with no exercise, what would it do? Well, men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lost as much weight in a month as a year in any diet, lost no water weight, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Energy through the moon. I mean, the benefits of this go way beyond the scale. As exciting as I know that is to most of us. But imagine that's the least important part of this, and you lose weight 12 times faster than any diet. Isn't that exciting or not? Does anybody think that's exciting? Truth be told, what? I'm not sure what you... No, truth be told, I was just saying that I would invite you. You can see it right there. You can go to the website. Is it food with no... Yes, it's food with no toxins. Absolutely, yes. Because obviously, even the food from the grocery store, to some extent, well, here's the thing, even organic, which I do eat, it's less polluted than regular food. But from a nutritional standpoint of view, DV0017, nutritionally, in over 200 studies, we wrote about it in one of our books. I think it's in the TDAW syndrome. They proved that organic was slightly better nutritionally, but it had way less chemicals in it. But it still had about 25% of the herbicides and pesticides that we have in normal food, because, my right hand would be one field, my left hand would be the other. The crop duster comes over the right field and the wind blows the chemicals over, but they also go in the water table and the plants suck them up. So that's why even organic has about 25% of the herbicides and pesticides that they're using on regular food. That's why it was important that these researchers found other researchers that had gone to parts of the world where they don't use herbicides and pesticides and had very rich soil that had been, properly maintained. I mean, we're producing these tremendous, to give you an idea, I think it was 1930, we produced around 40 to 50 bushels to the acre, and now we're producing like 225 bushels to the acre. I don't fault the farmers, they're trying to feed us, but the problem is that we're consuming these huge quantities of food with very little nutrition, and now it's showing up. The scorecard is all the diseases that are out of control. We have 33% of our kids that are pre-diabetic. 50% of adults are pre-diabetic. 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese. Does anybody really think diets work? I mean, honestly, honest to God? Right. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I wrote the definitive book on it called the TDAW syndrome. This is a medical syndrome, just to let you know, truth be told. And for those of you who don't know, to get a registered trademark with the U.S. Patent Office, you submit your theory, your intellectual property. And then the Patent Office, they search the world trying to find anything that's similar. Because once they grant you the little R, it's your legal protection that nobody can steal your intellectual property. I'm very proud of this, that I found this syndrome. And I've been talking about these toxins, believe it or not, for like more than 20 years, okay? And the thing that's so crazy about it, that it wasn't until 2005, talk about being a pioneer, till Mount Sinai Medical School in New York even did studies on humans, realizing that we were storing chemicals inside of our fat cells. That was the first time, and in our blood and in our fat cells both. I mean, it starts out in the blood, and then the body realizes that the inmates are the asylum, so it goes and grabs the toxins and stuff them in our visceral fat. It's a given. We know it's not up for debate, and that's what's going on. Okay, I'm very glad that you're very hip on this. The dress size, yeah, women lose a whole dress size in 7 days. Yes, well, about 25% are, with toxins as far as food we're eating. Dang, toxins are, yes, truth be told, everywhere, yeah. It's not like I'm trying to convince you, okay? And here's the good news. I don't want you to buy my books. I'm being really serious. We set up the website for all of you, for all of humanity, to be quite honest with you. I'll share a story with some of you that have been on here, and maybe you'll appreciate it, maybe you won't. Why am I so passionate about this? Because I am crazy. I work, I'm not bragging, I work 7 days a week. I do all kinds of consultations. But My mother was morbidly obese my whole life. I never knew her thin and I never knew her healthy, and I loved her. She was awesome. And I lived through as a kid and as I grew up, the fat shaming was unbearable, So don't you think, if you think I'm not sensitive to this, I'm very sensitive to it. And 23 years ago, my mom called me up one day and she said, Peter, I have one wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? She said, I would give anything if I could just spend 24 hours thin. I said, wow, Mom, that's really something. Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. My mom did about every diet that was out there 23 years ago. She did the grapefruit diet, the cabbage soup diet. She did OptiFast. She followed Oprah. She was, did Weight Watchers for years. Nothing against Weight Watchers. She did the Scarsdale diet. She would cut diets out of the National Enquirer. She only wanted 24 hours thin. Maybe some of you can relate to that. My mom was suffering, and so I'd see her lose 20 pounds and gain 25 pounds back. I'd see her lose 25, gain 30 back. I mean, I can't prove it for sure, but I'm pretty set that my mom dieted herself to death. Because you have to understand that on every diet, not my opinion, when you're losing up to 40% of your lean muscle mass. So she'd go on the diet, she'd lose weight, 20 pounds, and let's say 40% of that was lean muscle mass. And then she'd plateau, she'd quit the diet, she'd gain all her weight back, and she'd go on the next diet. But she never recovered the amount of lean muscle she was losing each time. And our heart is a muscle. So, and ultimately, I don't know how many of you remember Karen Carpenter. Oh my God, what a talent, voice. And she died of anorexia. And in late stage anorexia, what happens, it's called catabolic metabolism. Once her body ate through first her muscles, then all her fat, well, now the body's out of fuel. So what's the last source of fuel in our body? Our organs, starting with our heart. So her body basically began to eat her heart, and she died of a heart attack. My mom probably to a lesser degree, but basically she died of a massive heart attack and stroke. That's why I'm doing this. And my younger brother, the one who died of kidney cancer, who in 8 months, he was 6'4", and when he died, he weighed 112 pounds. And this was back in 2010, so 14 years ago. And in those days, I was lecturing 4 or 5 nights a week all over the world. Okay, this is way before COVID, of course. And the Saturday night before he was going to go into hospice, he was done. They couldn't do any more. It was in his bones. It was just terrible. And I was in his hospital room, and he said, I have a big request. I said, what's that? He said, will you sneak me in a couple beers? Well, I needless to say, I did. And we were sitting there as brothers, and we were crying and hugging and talking about our lives. And I said to him, listen, Patrick, his name was Patrick. I said, I'm going to cancel my speaking engagements next week, because on Monday I was set to go to New York, I think New York, Baltimore, and Friday night I was going to end up in Washington, D.C., well, more specifically in Bethesda, which is a little bit north of the capital, to speak. And I said, I'm going to cancel. And he sat up in the bed and pointed at me. He says, Peter, I don't want you sitting here and watching me. He said, you go out there in that world. If you can make a difference in one person's life, do it for me. So I left on Monday morning. It was a Monday. And Friday afternoon, I was in Bethesda, Maryland. The phone rang. It was his wife. I'll never forget. It was like 6:30 in the afternoon. And he was on a morphine pump. And I'm not even sure he heard me. And she said, just talk to him. And I said, look, Patrick, don't worry about your wife. He has a daughter. I said, I'll take care of him, And I don't know if he heard me or not. And I went on stage, and he died at 7:15 when I was on stage. So I've got some pretty big motivations here to, my mom and my brother never get to do a do-over. You get a shot at a do-over if you want. And that's why I'm not in the convincing business. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I've devoted 22 years of my life to this, and I really have worked with some of the top medical doctors, oncologists, molecular biologists, geneticists, nutraceutical chemists, and physiologists in the world. And that's why they call me the researcher of the researchers, although I've written 4 best-selling books all with medical doctors, because I wanted to have, I'm not an MD, but I wanted to make sure that what I was sharing with people was absolutely, thank you very much, truth be told. Yeah, it was, it was, it was, yeah, it was, I still have his, I don't know if any of you ever have lost a brother or a sister. I still have his, I mean, I want to erase his last voice message to me, But this is what motivates me. And I'm not saying there aren't other people out there that are probably influencers that maybe they have similar stories. I don't know. But the one thing that I'm so damn settled on is I'm not going to give you my opinion. Because for some of you, this literally can be life and death. For some of you, not because of Peter Greenlaw, not because of this podcast, but because of what I'm sharing with you, it could change your life forever. And you could be that person that my brother wanted me to educate. And my brother was a pretty famous newscaster. I mean, big one. He won like, I think 25 major, the Academy of, the equivalent of Academy Awards. And he always told me that this, before he died, that this was a major, major news story and that I would do everything possible to share it. Well, of course, in those days, I was doing live presentations, 4 or 5 nights a week. There wasn't even TikTok. I certainly didn't know anything about it. And now we have this opportunity to have kind of these fireside chats in a way. But I want you to all understand how important this is to me. This isn't some little deal. And I'm happy that I've been able to align, in this case, with these world-class researchers and the other people that I work that contributed to what we're doing today. Somebody asked me before about, they're interested in the whole thing. Well, I would hope it would be a little bit complicated. It's not as simple as, hey, we're going to give you 200 recipes, 400. There's one guy giving you 1,000 recipes, and you can buy a 1 month, a 2 month, a 6 months program. It's not going to work. And I don't fault them. I'm not mad at them. I'm just saying that I think you all deserve to have a chance to see the most advanced nutritional research that's ever been conducted, really, in the history of man. No one's ever seen these kind of results. I keep telling you all that. It's not about your, belt loops. It's not about, yes, women lose a whole dress size in 7 days. And that is really good because you're less uncomfortable, let's say. But that's not the reason to do it. The weight loss, like I said, it's just a throw-in. And what makes us different and what I believe in my heart, not just in my heart of hearts, but what makes this so amazing for all of you is I didn't get this chance with my mom or with my brother. I didn't know what I know now, even though with my brother, it was early stages compared to now. I mean, that was 14 years ago. And a lot of what's happened over the last 14 years is the sort of metamorphosis, the conversion of all of these. Like, for example, it was my colleague when we wrote this book, Your Third Brain, one of the top oncologists in the world, who taught me, after my brother had died, about why it was so critical for people with cancer to avoid losing weight, because the weight loss was primarily lean muscle mass. So I hope that this has been useful to all of you, because I need to wrap this up. I've actually got 2 more that I still need. I got some consultations that I need to do with some people here. But I hope you all have enjoyed this. I hope you feel like you've learned something. And in closing, the most important thing is I would go to that website, because it could change your life. I'm not saying this is a marketing tool. You don't need to believe Peter Greenlaw. But hopefully you believe the science, which is all there for you all to see. You know what I would have given in the case of my brother 14 years ago, or my mom 23 years ago, to know what I've been privileged to learn now? I don't know if I could even put a price tag on it, to be quite honest with all of you. It's still, Obviously, I can't go back. There's no, I mean, that's not possible. But maybe for one of you, or two of you, or 10 of you, or 100 of you, my brother's words. As a matter of fact, on one of my social media sites, I do a whole thing and go a little bit more deep into my brother and that famous night in the hospital and how it all transpired and, whatever. But I really hope for your own sake that you'll give yourself a chance. It's just a chance to go and look at the medical proof and see if you're curious, if you're interested. I would ask you this, and it's not a pun. What do you have to lose by going there versus what do you have to gain? Because the website is 100% free. There's no gimmicks, no tricks, nothing to, you're not going to get a free t-shirt if you go there. I mean, I see people doing that. Oh, buy our program, we'll send you a t-shirt. I'd rather just give you life-changing knowledge and life-changing information that's backed up by 10 peer-reviewed human trial studies. That would be my goal. That would be my wish for all of you. So I hope you all will. I wish you nothing but, that's what I was going to say. I wish all of you, fantastic, fantastic health, okay? So I hope you will, for your own benefit, go take a look and sign up for a free consultation if you want or not, okay? So I'm going to end this now, and I always say, because I have people from all over the world literally coming on these, so is it good afternoon, good evening, good morning? Because there are people in Australia. I've got people in Uzbekistan and Russia. I mean, on here right now. I think it's the middle of the night for them or something. I don't know. But anyway, I hope that you all will, yes, truth be told, I really appreciate that. So again, one last thing, I invite you to go write the website down, The New Health Conversation, or go to my TikTok and like The New Health Conversation, which helps me. And I typically do 2 to 3 of these a day, probably 11, maybe 2 Eastern, and maybe now it's like 6:30 on the East Coast. So that's just because I'm in Colorado, so it's only 2:20 here. Or, I'm sorry, it's 4:20 here. What am I talking about? So anyway, everyone have a great rest of your day, night, afternoon, tomorrow, whatever it is, okay? And I really hope you will go to The New Health Conversation. Goodbye, everybody.